Question. What do any of you remember of your teenage years? And I'm talking about that period when the hormones were so crazy you were permanently confused. So you didn't know what to like. And when you did like something, you didn't know why you liked it. You didn't know, should I be this person or this person? So you chose that person. Communication with parents was really, really bad, as evidenced in the often heard cry of, "You don't understand me." A few of you remember. In my case, until very recently, this last summer, whenever I tried to look back and find my teenage years, I got to a certain point, and then there was blank. There was nothing. All I had were these faint echoes of memories, buried too deep and too far away for me to ever access. So I was well aware of the fact that I was living, but I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know where I was from. And there's a good reason for this. And that reason is I am very, very old. I'm extremely, no, seriously. No, I am absolutely ancient. You could even say positively prehistoric. And the thing is that I, for some reason or another, look much younger than I am. So no, laugh. Just a guess, an educated guess. How old do you think I am? Is not a number. Shall we try it? Yes? Around 50 years old. Can we have from this section an idea?
56.
How much?
56.
56. And over there, what do you think? 57. Nice and compact. Well, the fact is, and this is based on the latest, most up-to-date information, I am 126,223 years old. Yes, impressive, isn't it? Yeah. And a few months, of course. And there's a reason. You don't get to be this old just like that. There must be some kind of reason for this. And the reason is, long ago, when we humans had a very different relationship with the world we lived in and with the creators of this world we lived in, I committed an act that was so unforgivable. I was cast out from my people. Not only that, the wise ones up in the great beyond, they said I should age like a mountain. Now, I can tell you at the time, I thought that it was just something you say, to be a little dramatic, cast out of your people, age like a mountain. But it turned out I was very, very wrong. I was so wrong. Now, when you have lived as long as I have, you get to do a lot of things. You learn languages, you learn to farm, you learn to weave, you learn to build. You also get to see a lot of things. So I have watched as our understanding of this planet has increased exponentially. And I have seen the effect, bless you, I have seen the effect that has on our thinking. I have watched as the warm satisfaction of having just enough has evolved into an obsession to own everything, no matter what. I have watched as we have created a logic based on irrelevant differences that allows us to place some people up here and other people down there. But that's not all. It's not all rough. You do get to experience a huge amount of stuff. I mean, seriously. At my age, I have tremendous experiences. Were I to go into every one, we would be here, I think, for a solid 50 years, so I will not punish you that way. But rather, I'll just give you a couple of highlights. For example, way back, we lived in this area. There was no farming. It was kind of reasonable area. We didn't always have enough food. We didn't starve, though. And somewhere on the south of our community, there were these trees, and these trees had berries, and these berries were seasonal. So once a year, during that season, we had these most delicious berries. It just so happened, while we were enjoying our berries, one day these birds came, and they lived over there, and the birds liked the berries as well. And so these birds would come and eat the berries. These birds would come and eat the berries again and again, and we got terribly frustrated. So after about 5 seasons of having these birds take our berries, we noticed something peculiar. Where the birds lived, suddenly berry trees began to grow there. And we thought, wait a minute, does that mean you can take a seed and you can put it anywhere you want and something will grow? So we began to take seeds and plants, and the next thing you know, you had agriculture. And when you have agriculture, you have a great crop. What do? You protect that crop. And how do you protect that crop? By telling other people to go away. Leave this is mine. That is yours. One thing led to another, and suddenly you have nation states and a world divided into many, many countries. But there's another experience which I just want to share with you, which I find, I wouldn't say it's my best, but it's a good one. The pyramids of Egypt, you know those, right? So I'm there, I'm doing a 70-year stretch working on 3 pyramids. And yeah, it's one of those things you do. And I have to tell people, most of the time you hear the word pyramid and you think of slaves being whipped and dragging rocks higher and higher, but that was not the case. It really was not the case at all. And archaeologists are beginning to discover this, because to work on the pyramid, you had to be a skilled laborer. You had to have skill sets, you had to have focus, you had to have dedication. We weren't slaves. We built those pyramids and we loved it. We were respected in all of Egypt. And then one last one, which I think everyone is familiar with, Titanic, you know, that ship that went down. Yes. I was about to sign a contract to work as a porter. I couldn't get a better job on the Titanic. So I'm there, contract there, I'm going to sign it. And I think, no, I don't think this is what I want to do. And thankfully, I'm here. Now, living so old has a downside. It's not all fun and games. It's not just the stuff you see. And the worst downside is the loneliness. You are always saying goodbye. You are always saying goodbye, and you're not saying goodbye because people die. You say goodbye because when you do not age like other people, when your skin does not wrinkle like the skin of others, when your bones do not become brittle like the bones of others, when your muscles do not become weak like the muscles of others, they become suspicious because you are different. You become the other. And when they become suspicious, they get nasty. And I discovered over the years the only way to keep myself out of trouble was to make sure I never stayed too long in the same space.
De duka moroe De duka moroe lo ya Tai duka le moroe Ketai nai mama Tai sote Kela Oh tai voyama La Jasmijn Tai de chavalero male Te Che mindig mama mi sohatja ara alma.
So, this last July, on a glorious summer morning, I wake up in a forest. What am I doing in a forest? I can explain. I've told you I'm old. You may believe it or not, but I am old. And being this old means you do certain things again and again and again. You see certain things again and again and again. You hear certain things again and again and again. And it does begin to get boring, you know? Thousands and thousands of years of listening to stuff and seeing stuff. And it began to itch. It began to, this not knowing where or who or why, it began to grate within me. And it reached such a point that I decided on January the 1st this year, I came up with a resolution. And that resolution was I would find out who I was, no matter what. So you can imagine it's, in these circumstances, it is not that easy. Not many people are my age. So you have to ask around, and you have to ask around in the right circles. And eventually, I was introduced to a trusted source. And this trusted source had a friend. And that friend had their own friend, and that friend had a cousin, and that cousin had a colleague. That colleague had an upstairs neighbor. And that upstairs neighbor bought vegetables from a market stall owned by somebody who said he knew of a person with all the answers to the world's questions. And that person lived in a house in a forest. And that forest was in Hodász. Now, I've been around, seen many, many places. I'd never heard of Hodász. So I checked it up. And I found Hodász on the east side of Hungary, on the Great Northern Plains. And so I finished the business I had to take care of, and I was off to Hodász as quickly as I could. I arrived too late. The forest was there, so was the house, but there were new owners. I knocked on the door and explained the situation, and these wonderful people invited me in for a coffee, and then they broke my heart. Yes, there had been a woman who fit the description. And this woman had the uncanny ability to answer any question asked of her. Unfortunately, she had died on January the 1st. I didn't know what to say. Of course, it hurt. But then the owners said something else, and they said, You know what? And they were laughing and giggling. They said, this woman, she claimed to be more than 120,000 years old. And they had a real laugh at that. I simply looked at them and said nothing. I left that house with a heavy heart. It's hard to explain. When you hope, I had hoped to find this one person on the planet who could possibly help me understand who I was, where I had come from, and this person was gone. What next? I didn't know what to do. I mean, how many oceans did I have to cross? How many hills did I have to see? How many birds did I have to hear sing? How much human drama did I have to watch? I couldn't take anymore. I'd lived and lived and lived and lived. I'd lived 1,000 and thousands of lives, all in me. I couldn't take it anymore. And so I decided that something had to be done. And I thought as I wandered around that forest, and then I suddenly realized I had a brilliant plan, a genius plan. You know what I was going to do? I was going to quit life. I was going to quit life. I was going to quit life in the only way I knew how. I was going to lie down in that grass and wait for nature to take my spirit away. Well, it seemed that death wanted to have nothing to do with me. Because I opened my eyes, saw the same sky, saw the same trees, saw the same bushes and grass that I'd seen when I lay down with the plan of checking out. But there was something different. Behind the rustle of leaves, I heard singing. I heard music. And those notes and voices, they flowed into my ears and began to fiddle with the dials on my soul. They turned all the good stuff all the way up to maximum. And suddenly, where I had been down, I felt there was a reason to live. I had a purpose. I didn't know what that purpose was, but I was energized. And very slowly, this music lifted me from the ground. My ears took control of my feet and decided to go off in search of that music. So off I went. It wasn't hard to find the source. I crossed a couple of fields, climbed over a few bushes, and then I saw them. At the edge of the forest, standing at the side of the road, were 3 young men filled with the vitality of youth and filled with potential. Their sounds painted colors around the whole world. It was beautiful.
Tele van a sötétig volt ragyogó csillaggal. Tele van az én szívem is keserű bánattal. Mit ér nekem csillagragyógása, ha az én bús szívemnek nincs vigasztalása. Látom életemet nem igen gyönyörű, az én 2 orcámon folydogál a könnyű. Ha tudtad határán rövid szerelmednek, miért nem hagytál békét én árva szívemnek? Evéshez kicsinik, bedende Kanada, dajdi kamla medorál, sérelne Kanada, dajdi kamla medorálom, haj Agite ara tirde
Wonderful people. Hamko ham.
La 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 la. Hey, la 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 la. Elloptás a biciklin, a piros-fehér biciklin, a kereke még ott marad, a deákrilik padala. Megitták a fröccsömet, a száraz fehér fröccsömet, az üres pohárok marad, a deákrilik padala. Tegnap este úgy alakult, nem emlékszem semmire, csak arra, hogy nem voltam józan, megálltam egy csöpnyire. Az is lehet elkábultam, néhány percig petrengve, de felébredtem, s nem volt nálam, csak az egyik kereke. Nincsen most már biciklim, hogy járja, hogy vágjak bele az éjszakába. Ellopták a biciklim, a piros-fehér biciklim, a kereke még ott van, a deáktíri pad alatt. Megitták a fröccsömet, a száraz fehér fröccsömet, az üres pohárok maradt, a deáktíri pad alatt. Sulevo!
Dai pose no.
Hey, Cortista! Dai manasucarello. Ai de cortesi, corcore. Dai manasucarello. Ciao, 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 che vi beja, dai mi me fala con te. Já vamos, sai que vi beja, dai que le fala la teja. E aí te la 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 la. Ai le ta la 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 la. Da 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 la da da da. Ai le da 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 da. Da di da 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 da.
Turned out to be a day filled with surprises. They introduced themselves as Herceg, Levi, and Áron. Hodász, Roma from Hodász. And they were waiting at the side of the road for a friend to come and pick them up. Now, I never discovered exactly what they were doing at the side of the road because they asked me, "Who are you?" And I said, "Odysseus Brown." Now, Odysseus Brown is not my real name. It's a name I came up with about 300 years ago when I realized I'd completely forgotten who I was. I told them I was a traveler by name and trade, and they accepted that. And then Herceg said, "You know something? We have this incredible lunch back at our place. How about you coming along?" And of course, my stomach was rumbling. I'd been lying out there for more than a day. And I said, yes. And then Levi took a phone out of his pocket, and he dialed and told the people in Hodász that a guest was coming. I have to tell you, I've been traveling long enough that I know certain patterns, they're things I see, and I can tell you that a village like Hodász is one of those places that is not friends with wealth or with glory. It was impossible to hide the poverty that is there. For example, the dusty tarmac had been eaten away at the edges. The fences, some were okay, but many were broken, hanging down. I saw a tractor that had once been bright red and probably plowed field after field, but the tractor was faded, leaning back without anything to do. The facades of many of those buildings look very, very sad. That was Hodász. On the other hand, our appearance created something of a sensation. Everybody wanted to know, who is that person? Who is that person? Who is that person? And there was so much curiosity. For example, there was this kid. You know how kids do? They look at you. When you look at them, they sort of turn around and pretend not to look. I saw a kid like that. There was this other gentleman on a bicycle. He was fascinated as he cycled by, staring at me. And you know, if you're cycling in that direction and looking in this direction, things can become tricky. But there is one bigger thing that I took from that. In every face I looked at, and I'm sure there were faces I didn't see, but every face I looked at, people looked at me as if they were happy to see me. And you have no idea what it does to an old soul, an old and lonely soul, to be looked at as if you're worth it. There was more. We entered a room and there was lunch. Now there's this chair that was meant for me set at this table. And this table was filled from here to here with edible delights. We had
Rántott hús,
Küldött
dalhonya,
kaláb,
rizipizi,
tojásleves,
gulyás, babgulyás,
farhát,
lángos,
vajaskenyér,
bokai,
krumplis tészta.
szákoféle.
Azt is
I mean, really, it was, I had a food baby after that. It was delicious food, so much food, but there was also a lot to talk about. We began to share little bits and pieces of ourselves in order to get a better picture of who was who. For example, I found out that Herceg here, the prince, when he was young, his spirit had a terrible quarrel with the early morning. And that beef still goes on till today, which explains why Herceg and the early morning are rarely found in proximity to one another. But I also learned that he wants to leave a mark on this planet. What is the point of living if you don't leave something beautiful behind? He does have a point. And talking about leaving things behind, Levi here, he sees himself as a caretaker. He wants to leave this place in top condition for the generations that come after us. That is his belief, that is his mission. But there's something else. I figured out, or I was told, that if Levi is ever in a bad mood, all you need to do is smile, and that will make his day. And then you have Áron. Áron is a magician of sorts. He has this ability to look out and see where there is a heart and where there is no heart. He can see if that heart is warm or if that heart is cold. And because of that, he manages to travel through the world surrounded by love and warmth. Of course, we traded anecdotes, but at a certain point, we got a little more serious. I wanted to know about them. Who are you? They said they were Roma, thousands of years ago. warfare and turmoil chased them out of India. And they have been wandering this endless road ever since, in search of a home, in search of a place that is theirs. And because of circumstances, because of how we are, they discovered that home was family and family was home. And then as it came to Hodász itself, I had mentioned the poverty. Life was not easy there. Things that you and I take for granted, such as running water. No, I had seen a woman carrying 2 buckets. 2024 in Europe, no running water. I was rather surprised, but that is a fact. As I came here to do a sound check, I noticed outside somebody delivering a drying machine. A drying machine in Hodász? Never. Outside I saw line after line hanging with washing that flapped back and forth in the summer breeze like sad flags. And then there was this matter of work, wanting to work, believing you can add to the community, you can add to things, but people won't let you because you are Roma, because you are different, because they don't understand the way you are, so you don't work. And if you don't work, it's hard to have money. And that meant the idea of always putting food on the table every day, that was just a dream. And as I said this, or as I heard this, I was told and encouraged to please take another bite of that absolutely delicious stuffed cabbage. There was one house in the village. It was a bit different. It was low like all the others. But where Most had red tiled roofs. This had thatched roofs, where the others had, in many cases, faded paint, peeled paint. This paint was fresh, it was white, and there were blue trimmings around the window and around the bottom. And I asked Herceg, what is this? What is this house? What is special about this place? And he said, come, let me show you where we learn to sing. We entered the building, and it was as if I had stepped into so many yesterdays. The first thing I saw was this old school stove. And as I looked at it, I could just about picture this pot of boiling stew. I could even smell this delicious aroma. It entered my nose. There was a bed that became a sofa that also became a bed. As I looked at it, I saw people cuddling up in the cold of winter to keep warm, or sitting on the sofa and laughing and discussing matters that were relevant to everyone there. Above the bed, there were these dresses hanging, and one was placed in my hand, and it felt as if I was holding summer. Not only that, I could feel the fingers of the person holding the needle who had sewed this thing. And then along the walls at the sides were photographs from days gone by. And as I looked at the photographs, I could hear what was going on. I saw faces. The lines on those faces told so many stories. And then we entered another chamber. This is a chamber that was partly below ground. At the back was a small window, in the middle a flame, and there were two beds. And these beds were made of mud that was made from the earth. And one of those beds, it seemed to call. It didn't say, come here, but I felt it pulling. And as I looked at this bed, Herceg's mother, who was in the group of us in this place, she touched me on the upper arm. I don't know if you've had that thing that sometimes people touch you, and it's not just a touch. It's not that they touch the fabric that you're wearing. It's not just that they get to your skin. It is that this is a touch that goes all the way in and touches your soul. And it felt like that. And I wondered, was I confused? Was I tired? Was it real? Doesn't matter. I went to the bed and I lay down. And the moment my head touched that red velvet pillow, there was darkness. When the darkness lifted, I found myself in a very peculiar space. It felt like a room, but I could not see the walls. I could not see the ceiling. I simply sat there. And in front of me was this huge color screen. And the image on that screen was the image from just a few moments ago, when Herceg's mother had invited me to lie down on the bed. Oddly enough, at the top right of this screen was a counter that measured years, months, and days. Everything was on zero. Everything. Click. -1 day. I saw myself in the forest the day before, wandering around with a broken heart. Another click, another image of the day before that, -2 days. Another click, another image. Again and again and again, the images began to switch and change, the colors changed, and it was as if the screen became bigger and bigger, or I went closer and closer to the screen, faster and faster, until the numbers at the top right were a complete blur, racing and racing and racing. And the funny thing was that every image gave me a beginning and an end. Slowly a memory was forming in my head until they stopped. The counter read, -126, 208 years, and a few days. I looked and saw this 15-year-old boy. I didn't see a 15-year-old boy. I was that 15-year-old boy, walking out of a cave, knowing I would never return. I'd really forgotten about the caves. That is where we lived back in the day. Try to imagine a grand plateau, and on the north facade, it's dotted with these caves. It was a great plateau. From top to bottom would take us at least half a day of treacherous pathways. You had to be careful. You could fall off. But generally speaking, it was an easy life. On top, you had berries, a small forest. We collected small animals. And then down on the great plains that stretched out as far as the eye could see, that is where we did the big hunting. That's where we got the game. And life was generally good until one day, this family appeared. This family had come from somewhere else. And everybody else in the community welcomed them in. But this family was different. The noises they made were different. The way they dressed was different. The way they prepared food was different. They were different. Even worse, this was a family that said they had come from here and then gone here and then gone here and then gone here. What kind of human beings jumped all over the place? The only things that jumped all over the place were the birds, and we did not trust the birds. And then, even worse than that, amongst these different people, these strangers who had come to our community, there was a kid. There was this kid. And for some reason, this kid followed me everywhere I went. He wanted to be me. Whatever I did, he did. If I reached up high to grab something, he too reached up high. When I bent down low to pick up something, he bent down low as well. It got on my nerves. I complained to the elders. I said, "Get him away from me." And they said, "Be proud. This child admires you." But I didn't want a child from someone else, from some other place admiring me. I wanted nothing to do with this kid. And so it was. We'd come back from the hunt, and I have to tell you, the hunt then was tricky for everyone, both hunter and hunted. And on that day, I had lost a great friend. And it hurt. So as I climbed the cliff, heading towards our cave, with this huge leg of meat over my shoulder, who follows me? It's the kid. He follows and he follows and he follows, and he really begins to work on my nerves. I take a step, he takes a step. I look this way, he looks that way, until this fire grew inside of me to the point I turned around and said, "Leave me alone!" The kid's eyes opened wide. His mouth opened wide, and he stepped back and began to stumble. I saw what was happening, and I left that piece of meat there. I leapt forward and snagged my foot on a brush. Instead of reaching out and grabbing this kid and pulling him in, I pushed him off the cliff. His screams cut us to pieces as they faded slowly. And I found myself dripping with, or burning with, or being eaten up by the worst kind of shame and self-loathing. Everybody in the community was looking at me. "What have you done? What have you done? This is not what I wanted." And so I appealed to the gods up above. I said, "Help me, please, bring him back, anything, just do it. Get him back, bring this kid back, please, please." I was ready to jump, give my life so this kid would come back. I didn't plan to kill him. I didn't plan to kill him. You need to understand that I did not plan to kill him. And up above, where there had been sun, the clouds were dark, and roiled the rage of the wise ones up in the great beyond. They were furious. And I begged and I begged and I begged and I begged, and eventually they listened to me. They said, "Is this what you want? We can bring him back. Is this what you want?" I said, "Yes, bring this child back." Very well. "We will bring him back," they said. "But you will go. You will go and never return. And you will age like a mountain. You will walk and watch and see and learn and walk and watch and see and learn. You will do that. Be gone." My last memory is my mother holding me here and letting me go. And then I began that long journey down, away from the cave, away from my people. As I reached the bottom, who do I see? The child brought back to life, the child I thought I had killed. And I am so happy to see him. I'm so happy to see him. I look at him and I say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And he looks at me and does this. And I bend forward and he wipes the tears from my eyes. And he said, "It's okay," with a smile that filled me with sunshine. And that is the moment the world began to shake and tremble and shiver in a way that I'd heard of from the elders. Once in a while, they say, Mother Earth turns everything upside down and we begin again. And I thought this was it, this was the end. It turned out not to be the end. It was Herceg shoving me, saying, "Why don't you wake up?" I opened my eyes, and I had never felt so light. I knew who I was. I knew where I'd come from. And then I'm surrounded by these smiles. Everybody's smiling. They're so happy. And there's one kid giggling, claiming that I snored like her grandfather, who could wake people up on the other side of Hodász. She began to give a few details of that, and people said, "Please don't. Not necessary." And then it was sort of, I knew it was time to part, as I had parted many, many, many times in this long life. But this would be different, because I had a lighter spirit. And I knew we would part in that way you part when you know you're never going to see this person again or these people again. And yet, for that brief moment, we connected. And what was exchanged there will stay with us forever. And that is when Herceg came up to me. And he had something to say.
Gelem ungonet romensa. Malaginem bachtale romensa. Keep going on the endless road and meet happy travelers. Gelem lungonet romensa. Malagile bachtale romensa. Gelem lungonet romensa. Malagile bachtale romensa. Share Cavaleiro male, Chidi, ai ai ai, ai di chiola me dorado, ai di chiola le dorado, ai 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 ai, ai somiglio la soccana, ai di chiola me dorado, ai 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 ai, ai somiglio la soccana. Ai 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 ai, la Coruña te cuchas, ai de tanana, la Coruña te cuchas, ai 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 ai, la Coruña te cuchas, ai de tanana.
Hamko Ham, and just so you know, Hamko Ham means we are who we are. So, Hamko Ham. Yeah.
And Chidi Ebere, Chidi. Hey, I did love, I did love, I did love, I found it. Odi querer, magari. I did love, I did love, I found it. Odi querer, magari. Ai si fermerà la brigata, ai si fermerà la brigata che fa in una caverna. Ai fani e petala, ai si fermerà la brigata, ai si fermerà la brigata che fa in una caverna. Hi.
Episch.
Jij di querer, ma che brighi. Ma che brighi. Che vali da camera, le cose le non pari, i contesi col cuore, hai para giocare l'hotel, ai contesi col cuore, hai para giocare l'hotel. E hai la zaga che mi beja, ai mi prepara la teja. La zaga che mi beja, ai mi prepara la teja. Chico Pipo. everyone. Fantastic. Very cool. Thank you, Chidi. Thank you, Chidi.